We have a jam-packed show for you today. Welcome, everybody. I'm Kerri Lane, and you're watching The Kerri Lane Show today.
From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Is that a joke?
Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States.
President of the United States. I was saved by God to make America great again.
The newly elected president wastes no time and signs a flurry of executive orders.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier.
Hell, I know something about that.
This week, former President Donald Trump delivered a speech that, to many in the nation, felt like a powerful reset, a declaration of unwavering commitment to the ideals that he campaigned on. And while watching his inaugural address, the contrast between his administration and the one that preceded it couldn't be clearer. Whether you like the guy or not, one thing you can guarantee with President Trump is he will make good on his promises. When he says he's going to tear down everything that Biden built, that's not an empty threat. It's pretty much a policy. And he has already proved that in a short amount of time. Within minutes of his inaugural speech, the CBP One cell phone app was shut down. This was a program you may remember that was created by the Biden administration and allowed more than 900,000 migrants to enter our country. So not only was it shut down, but existing appointments were also canceled. In fact, this distraught woman that you see on your screen, her appointment was scheduled for 1 p.m. on Inauguration Day, and she found out it was canceled just hours before her appointment. These images aren't the only thing showing the stark contrast between the two administrations. On Inauguration Day, we listened to the incoming president declare to end the weaponization of the Justice Department. All while just moments before, Biden was signing a preemptive pardon for not only his family, but also for members and staff of the January 6th committee. Liz Cheney, retired General Mark Milley, Adam Schiff, and Dr. Anthony Fauci are among some of those names that are now protected under Biden's pardons. I'm not really sure why anyone would need a preemptive pardon if they haven't done anything illegal. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this. Please leave them below in the comments. It's also worth noting, Biden made this move just moments before the inauguration began, leaving some to speculate that it was an effort to prevent Trump from being able to address it during the ceremony. The president did finally have a chance, though, to react a little later in the day. Take a listen.
I was surprised that President Biden would go and pardon his whole family, because that makes him look very guilty. You know, I could have pardoned my family. I could have pardoned myself, my family. I said, if I do that, it's going to make me look very guilty. I don't think I'd be sitting here, frankly.
Okay, so let me remind you now what Democrats were saying back in 2020 when Trump was about to leave office. Roll it.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, I think that it's an effort not only to prospectively pardon people for things they have not yet been charged with and may never be charged with, but also it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
President's reportedly asking his staff whether he can issue preemptive pardons for himself, his family members, Rudy Giuliani. There's a simple answer: no. No, Mr. President, that would be a gross abuse of the presidential pardon authority.
So, do you think there's any chance Adam Schiff is disappointed that he was included in those preemptive pardons on Monday? Yeah, no, probably not. And I don't know how you look at this any other way than this is a classic case of rules for thee, but not for me. If any of these people actually did something illegal, why should they be protected in ways that the American people aren't? Wouldn't that make them above the law? I mean, there's a phrase that's been beaten into our brains the past 4 years by mainstream media. Adding to the list of hypocrisy, here's what Biden had to say about preemptive pardons right before he took office back in 2020.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons for his adult children and for Rudy Giuliani. He's also floated the idea in private conversations, according to our reporting, of possibly pardoning himself, which he insists he has the power to do, though that has never been litigated. Does this concern you?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice.
And that wasn't the only time that Biden told us he respects the justice system and knows it works. So what changed? Do they not trust the justice system to work when it comes to the scrutiny of certain Democrats? Because they certainly had no problem when the FBI was rifling through Melania's underwear drawer. The problem I have with how the preemptive pardons went down with Biden is that he lacked the courage to do it in the light of day and explain why he did it to the American people. He owes us that. He works for us. You can't be the guy who argues that Trump doesn't respect democracy and does things outside the norms and then do this. This is exactly why Trump was overwhelmingly elected, because he is unapologetically himself. You know exactly what you're going to get. Americans are exhausted. They want to get back to a justice system that works for every American, one where Lady Liberty wears a blindfold. Now, there are those who will argue that Trump is pardoning 1,600 J6ers, and they would be right. But the difference here is Trump told the American people that's exactly what he would do if elected. Everyone who went to the ballot box and filled in that little bubble next to Trump's name, they knew it was a vote to pardon those involved in the Capitol riots. To whereas Biden consistently told us he would not pardon his family in any way. President Trump also repeatedly said on the campaign trail that he would end the weaponization of the Justice Department, and he delivered already on that promise just hours after taking the oath of office.
And lastly, sir, before we go back to the Oval Office to sign a large number of other items, is a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen.
The president has also yanked the security clearance for the 51 intel officers who signed a form that was falsely claiming Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That is just one of many false narratives that mainstream media ran with in an effort to essentially protect Joe Biden. We now know, of course, that the laptop was totally legit and used as evidence against Hunter in his felony gun trial. Here's a little behind-the-scenes info for you. I can also tell you from firsthand experience that the laptop story was intentionally suppressed by the media. For those of you that may be meeting me for the first time, I've worked as a news anchor in mainstream media for the past 17 years. And it's because of how these networks are now operating, their lack of journalistic integrity, lack of curiosity regarding stories on one side of the aisle. Those are the reasons I left that toxic environment and created this channel. I'll tell you, a major network, of which I won't mention at this time, sent out a letter to all of its employees saying no one is to mention Hunter's laptop on air when the story first broke. It was heavily suppressed in mainstream media, and I can tell you that was on purpose. It was interesting because several polls were done right after the 2020 election, right around the time that Hunter's laptop was rightfully confirmed to be his. And more than half of those polls said that if they had known about the laptop prior to the election, it would have changed who they voted for. That, by definition, is election interference. Now imagine if that had been the laptop of a Trump. Ask yourself, would the media have suppressed the story? Like him or not, I think we all know the answer to that, which is no. You would have seen wall-to-wall coverage for days, if not weeks on end. And this is why so many of you have found alternative news outlets, because you don't feel like you can trust mainstream media anymore. I know after my experience, I can't. So it'll be interesting to see how the media chooses to cover the Trump administration these next 4 years, and if hemorrhaging viewers will actually force them to correct course. One of the narratives that frustrated me the most this past year was when certain networks tried to tell you that Trump isn't all there. He's showing signs of dementia. Did you see Trump's energy on Inauguration Day? That man went from like 6 a.m. all the way past midnight. I'm pretty sure he spoke longer to reporters at the Resolute desk last night doing the first signing of those executive orders than Biden did in the past 8 months. And he answered questions with clarity. We didn't need a translator, and the White House didn't need to walk back any of his answers. This is the man the media should be saying has endless amounts of energy and can run circles around the staff. But instead, they tried to tell you that person was Joe Biden. Well, now Americans can see it for themselves. We watched President Trump get to work on day one by revoking 78 of what Trump called destructive and radical executive actions by the previous administration, along with signing a flurry of new executive orders. The big focus was on the border. He kicked things off by reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, ending catch and release, and designating cartels as terrorist organizations. That's a big one. He also ended birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants. That one will likely get tied up in courts as lawsuits have already been filed. He also declared a national emergency at our southern border, which means the president can now deploy the National Guard and military to help Border Patrol agents. Now turning to Trump's cabinet, Marco Rubio was sworn in as Secretary of State this morning. He is the first of Trump's official cabinet members to be confirmed, and the Senate actually unanimously confirmed him last night. More confirmation hearings are underway today on Capitol Hill, plus we're expecting more executive orders in the coming days. I will keep you posted on all the latest developments as Trump's team looks to shake things up in Washington. Before I go though, I want to remind everyone that change is never easy. It's often uncomfortable and even messy, but it's through that struggle, that determination, that a better future is forged. I want to thank you all for stopping by and remind you, if you haven't already, please give me a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you have all the facts as soon as they're posted. Take care, and we'll see you next time.